I think it actually, and this is such a horrific bit of news that we've just heard, this also, again, comes back to your first question about process, though, Kate. We have implemented policies without the appropriate process, without the appropriate planning to ensure that any children are taken care of and that we don't have blood on our hands. It is clear that there was not a well thought out process for the child separation policy at the border. It is clear that whomever is working with these children, whether it be on the Mexican side of the border or the U.S. side of the border, don't have the resources that they need to make sure that this humanitarian crisis doesn't get worse. And if the president was actually using his team, he would call an emergency meeting today, not to use wall versus fence semantics, but to talk about how to avoid any more horrors like we just learned about.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Sane Minds. Now today I want to talk about the boy that just died being held in the United States Border Patrol custody. And as the media wants to put it, of course, somehow it's Trump's fault, Trump's government's fault. I mean, just listen to what that lady just said, and some questions I have to ask her are, what would a better process be? Now, do you just want to release them into the interior of the United States and hope that they come back for their court date in a year? Which, studies and surveys have proved that, which about 90% of the catch and release illegals never show up for their day in court. So basically you're just giving them a free ticket to the United States. Okay, we'll catch you, release you, give you a court date a year out, and then say show up for it, where you might be deported. Now, which illegal who already has been living in the United States for a year probably knows people, probably was able to get a job under the table, because many employers are just looking for cheap labor, and then show up for court where they could possibly be deported. Most of them, 90%, just stay illegally in the United States. These people came to our border and are not going to just wait for us to come up with a perfect solution before they cross the border illegally. Frankly, these people shouldn't even be here in the first place. We have no blood on our hands. If someone sits down on your front doorstep and dies of starvation or dehydration, is that somehow your fault? Did you agree to provide for them? Did you consent? How much resources, by the way, should we even use on illegal immigrants? If we give all illegal immigrants the best quality care possible, is that not going to encourage future waves of illegal immigrants to cross in caravans, to cross our borders illegally? And of course, at the end, she has to, somehow blame it on Trump. And what I want to say to her is that President is trying to prevent a future illegal immigration crisis by getting border wall funding passed so that people cannot just come over the border illegally and turn themselves into the Border Patrol. That's exactly what happened in both of these cases where kids died. They turned themselves into a Border Patrol facility that is ill-equipped to handle them, which, people want to complain about. They want to say, oh, why aren't these facilities top notch? Why don't they have a freaking miniature hospital at each Border Patrol station? Which is just ridiculous. I mean, they're out in the desert. These people have to understand what they're coming to. And just look at this picture here. I mean, this is great, emotional work by these news organizations. They want to pull your heartstrings. That's the whole point. They want to try and make you feel bad. I mean, just look at this mother or sister. I don't know who these people are, but look at these two older women. They seem to have jackets on, so obviously it must be a little chilly. And look at this little girl. She has nothing. If that was my daughter, I would give her my jacket. I mean, the jacket on the lady to the right there looks a little too small for her anyway. Like, she almost stole it off that little girl. I mean, honestly, but this is just pure manipulation. These parents look like they can care less about that little girl crying and not having a jacket, which she's probably cold. I mean, you want to blame somebody. Why don't you blame parents that drag their kids across a desert, thousands of miles? Or, I know a lot of them are picked up in trucks and other things, but these are the parents' fault. They're bringing their kids in, dehydrated, haven't eaten for days. That's what happened to the first little girl. That didn't happen in the 24 hours that she was in Border Patrol custody. You don't die from 24 hours not having water. You don't die from 24 hours not eating. So they want to blame somebody. You already have someone to blame. It's the parents. It's the people who drag their child, who are unwilling participants in this. They're just moving with their parents. They have no say. And instead you want to blame Trump. Well, I have news for you. It's not going to work against people who actually look at the issue for what it is and who the blame really truly lies with.
7-year-old Jacqueline Kaal Makin arrived at this remote border checkpoint with her father. The station was closed. There were only 4 Border Patrol agents on duty to handle the 163 migrant refugees who turned themselves over to the agents. Customs and Border Protection officials insist the father and daughter were given food and water as they waited nearly 8 hours for buses to drive them to a Border Patrol station 95 miles away. But now, attorneys for the young girl's father paint a different picture.
What we do know, and what our client is unequivocal with, is that no water was provided to either him or his daughter. They were provided cookies, essentially, with limited bathroom facilities.
Homeland Security officials have not responded to this latest accusation. According to the timeline released by Customs and Border Protection, Jacqueline started showing signs of distress just before the bus departed from the port of entry checkpoint to the Border Patrol station in Lordsburg, New Mexico.
There's a small little table, right? About this big, this wide. That's just
Congressman Raul Ruiz, who is a doctor, was part of the delegation that toured the facilities. He says he was stunned to see the room where border agents used a table in a utility room as a bed to treat the young girl who had stopped breathing.
And I'm not saying that they didn't try. I'm saying that there are some clear resourced, undertrained, under-equipped, and lack of standards and procedures that reflect the highest possible care that we can give to any child.
CBP officials say the decision to keep Jacqueline on the bus was the best means to provide the child with emergency care. But the father's lawyers question whether that was the best decision and want to know why they didn't choose to airlift her from the checkpoint area sooner.
Sometime before the bus left, sometime around 5 o'clock, there was an indication of distress, and a decision was made at that point to transport her by bus anyway. One of the fundamental questions that needs to be answered that we don't have an answer for is if, in fact, she was in distress.
It's hard to overstate the remoteness of the Antelope Wells outpost on the U.S.-Mexico border. Customs and Border Protection officials say human smuggling routes into this area is a brand new phenomenon. In the last 2 months, officials say extremely large groups of migrant refugees have been arriving together, smugglers leaving parents and children on America's doorstep in the middle of nowhere.
So the Border Patrol is adamant that water was indeed provided to the detainees, and the girl only showed signs of distress a little while before the bus is supposed to leave to take them to a bigger facility. And because of the remote Border Patrol station did not have the highest possible care, quote, that is the USA's fault, how much taxpayer money should we spend on illegal immigration health care? You know, people want to complain on there, their lawyers or whoever they are, want to complain that why wasn't the girl airlifted? When it's an extremely remote station, do you know how much it would cost to airlift somebody? I'm not saying, just let somebody die, but there has to be a cost to, care ratio there where something is reasonable. You can't just spend, no insurance company is going to spend millions and millions and millions if it could save someone's life, because I'm sure there's plenty of ways to save someone's life if you had unlimited funds and you could have unlimited care. But that's not the point here. The point is how much money, taxpayer money, should we spend on illegal immigration health care? If millions more decide to attempt an illegal crossing, should we just keep spending more and more money to upgrade our facilities? Is this our fault to begin with? If somebody, like I said, if somebody just comes to your doorstep, are you now responsible for all of their care? All of their health care? No one told them to come. No one said, hey, come here. I mean, maybe some Democrats want to say that online, but that's not the stance of the United States government, the federal government. We're telling them no. We're telling them it's illegal. And instead, they bring their children. They're ill-equipped for the journey, and they do it anyway. That's just child abuse. I mean, I'm not going to bring my child with me to cross illegally to another country. And if I did, for some crazy reason, I would at least be able to accept those consequences and say, hey, it was my fuck up. I'm the one who made the decision to leave and come somewhere where I know I'm not welcome and not wanted. But I came anyway, and tried to sneak my way in. Or as many of them probably want. They want the catch and release. You know, they think they could just turn in, because that's how it's been forever, especially under Obama. You know, they try and say that he had all these deportations and stops and stuff. Yeah, he stopped a lot of people, but then guess what? He let them go, and they just don't show up back for court. So it's really a useless system to catch and release, because you're only going to get 10% of them to even come back, and those are probably the ones that honestly have a case for amnesty. The other 90%, no, there's no way in hell. So why are they going to even try? But yeah, guys, I just wanted to let you know really what's going on here. I mean, like, real quick, what happened in this latest case? The boy died shortly after midnight on Christmas Day, U.S. Customs and Border Protection said. In a statement, the agency said the 8-year-old had displayed signs of potential illness on Monday, and that he and his father were taken to a hospital, I'm not even going to say that word, in New Mexico, where the boy was diagnosed with a cold and fever, given prescriptions of amoxicillin and ibuprofen, and released on Monday. So they treated these people. There's no treatment going on. For how remote these facilities are, and for people who have no right to even be here, I think this is great care. People die even in the even citizens, even people that have health insurance. They can go to the hospital, be sent along their way, and then end up dying later. This isn't something that is just exclusive to illegals, and I love how the media wants to try and portray it as the United States Border Patrol somehow doing something wrong here, because they're not. If somebody's in terrible condition because of what their parents put them through, that's not on us. But all right, everyone, I want you to have a Merry Christmas. I had some time today, obviously, because it's Christmas, so I had time off. I wanted to get another video out there. I enjoy doing these. I just don't always have the time to do them. But I appreciate everyone's views, comments. If, you want to discuss this with me, I'm more than happy to. Just keep, the insults at bay. I'm not here to hurl insults back and forth with you. I'll have a civil discussion if that is your prerogative. But thank you very much, everyone. And Merry Christmas.